is being broadcasted both on YouTube and Instagram. So if you want to watch on YouTube, you can do that too. Hey, Rob. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Hi, Karen. Hi. Everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Whoa. All right, let me turn off my. Okay. Welcome, everyone on Instagram. Welcome, everyone on YouTube. If you have any questions about storytelling or how to use storytelling in content, just put it in the sticker tab over here. Hi, Nick. Hi, Mondrian, Skeptic. Yeah. Okay, so before we start, I want to talk a little bit about, what I cover on Sunday service. So what a lot of people do is they have a business, they have, like this thing that they want to say about their business, and then they try to write a story to fit that narrative, right? And a lot of times that doesn't work. It feels forced, it feels cliche, something like that. So what I suggest, I think the better way to do it is like this. Keep writing stories, keep reflecting, right? This is what you should do. Every day, at the end of the day, just for 30 minutes, sit down and journal and just reflect on your day and think about like what you did that day, any significant events that happened that day, like something you said, something you shouldn't have said, or anything like that, right? And think about like the significance behind it or the meaning behind it. And then like write it down, right? What's the lesson that I learned? And you just do this every day, reflecting every day. I guarantee you'll have more than enough stories for content. And if you do this for a year, like it'll completely change your life. So yeah, I'll just start there. All right, let's see if there's any questions. All right, if you guys have any questions, just add them in the sticker tab here. And if you wanna vote up questions, you can also do that. And I'll answer from the top, bottom. Okay. Coach Sumit Sharma. What should I cover in my About Me story, highlight, or About Me video? Great question. Okay. Can you guys add the questions in the sticker tab? Okay, so for this one, this is what I'll say. So first of all, you shouldn't just have one story. You should have multiple stories that teaches multiple different lessons. And depending on where you are, who you're speaking to, you have to tell the story. So when you write a story, the first thing I would do is ask yourself 3 questions. Number 1, who is this story for? Like, who's the audience, right? Number 2, what is the lesson that this story is teaching? And number 3, what is the myth or the belief that you're trying to break with this story? Okay? So answer these 3 questions first and be hyper specific about it. And once you did that, you know that, okay, now this story is for this. This story is for this other reason, something like that, right? Now, once you have that, your main hero's journey story, so those stories are for content, for you to tell, like when you ask questions or when you're in sales meetings or something like that, right? But on your website, on your bio, on your LinkedIn profile, you have to have like a main hero's journey story, right? For that, what I would do is this. Start from like who is your main audience? What is your product or service? What is the real problem that it's solving? Right? Like your brand. Okay, maybe not just your product or service, but your brand as a whole. What is the real problem that you're solving as a brand, right? And you got to teach that lesson. So let's say me as a brand, let's say I'm all about I'm trying to make personal brand websites with more storytelling or something like that. Like that's the problem that I'm solving. Then I need to come up with a story. I need to look back and see the story where I teach that lesson, right? If you want to talk about, like, one of the stories that I tell is about authenticity, like how I used to lie all the time, and now, like, in business I used to lie all the time, and I had to, once I started being more honest and telling the truth, it actually helped my business. So that's a story that I'm gonna tell if authenticity is like my main repertoire, right? If that's the thing that I'm talking about, that's the thing that I'm known for. So you have to figure out what is a thing that what's the thing that differentiates you from other brands, right? And who's the audience that needs to hear that? Actually, if you guys want to know this, okay, tomorrow on YouTube, we're gonna live premiere a new episode of my podcast. And what I did was I went through storytelling with two entrepreneurs, and both of them are telling a brand story. So you're gonna be able to see how I arrive on like certain stories versus like a brand story, right? The main hero's journey story. So yeah, definitely tune into that if you want that answer like in detail. Okay, let's keep going. If you're just joining us, we're talking about storytelling and how to use storytelling in your content. So if you have any questions, put it in the sticker tab, and if you see in the sticker tab, you can vote up any questions you want to answer first. Okay. Question from Anna C. Canvas. Sometimes I can't find a lesson from the story. Is there a way or example to find the lesson? Great question. Okay, number one. Hey, Tabitha. First, the best way to find the lesson is not to look for a lesson that you learn necessarily at that moment, but a lesson that something like that thing has taught. Because a lot of times what happens is you didn't learn a lesson. Like, life lessons doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? Like, life lessons are not like, ooh, 1 minute you're like this and all of a sudden, aha, and then like you change. People don't change overnight. People don't give up their addictions overnight. People don't become confident overnight. People don't get six packs overnight, right? Nothing happens overnight. Things always happen gradually. So if you learned a life lesson, if you had an internal transformation through a life lesson, that means that transformation happened over time. It didn't happen overnight, okay? There's no such thing as overnight success. So most likely you didn't learn that lesson at that moment, just like that. What happened was similar moments like that happen over and over and over and over again. Like, you did this. Okay, for example, you trust people too much. You trust everyone. So you trusted somebody and somebody like screwed you over. And then you're like, oh, fuck, that person screwed me over. And then but you kept doing it. You trusted someone again. And you keep trusting. And at a certain point, you're going to realize and you're going to stop trusting everyone. Do you understand? So it happens over time like that. But what ends up happening is when you have those moments so many times, you're going to be able to recall one of those moments and tell a story. So one of the things that I would do is, think of a similar moment of that story, something like that, a similar moment in your life where something similar happened, and try to come up with all the list of every moment in your life that are like that. And when you look at that, you're gonna be like, oh, I guess the common denominator is that of all these stories is that this is the lesson. Do you understand what I mean? Something like that. But how you come to that conclusion, I think a lot of times is just by showing up. Like yesterday, right? Okay. So the podcast that we're gonna release tomorrow, we recorded it yesterday. And one of the stories that one of the guests was talking about is she was saying how she was just telling her story, how she quit her job, right? Going into the boss's office, like her relationship with her boss, how she felt. And even when she quit her job, she didn't tell her mom for a couple of days, right? And then she quit her job and she didn't have money to start a business, so she went to get another job. But like the story kept like it was like all these things happening. But when I was hearing it, there were certain parts of that story that I was more curious about, that resonated with me. But for someone else, like for example, for me, the part that I was really curious about is what happened in the beginning, because she was excited about her job, and then at some point the excitement died down. So I was trying to dig into that and what happened there, because that's something similar like that happened to me, right? But then there was another guest on the podcast and her question was, oh, like, oh, the part that resonated with her is the fact that she didn't tell her mom after she quit her job. She was like scared and she didn't tell her mom, and she didn't want to tell her mom that she quit her job, right? And that's the part that resonated with her. So when you're telling a story, so this is why I say if you want to find a lesson in your story, you should be constantly doing this all the time. And this is what we do in small groups. What you do is you just tell your story exactly how it happened with every detail as much as possible. And people are going to ask you like, oh, hey, this is a, hey, like this part really resonated with me, or this is what happened here. What were you thinking there? Why did you do that? And people are going to keep asking you those questions. And through those discussions going back and forth, what's going to happen is you're going to be like, oh yeah, why did I do that? Oh yeah, how did I feel during that moment? And when you sit there and you reflect on it, what's going to happen is it's going to become so clear what lesson you learned. Because a lot of times people don't learn lesson through. Let me give you a perfect example. So when I was young, when I was really, really little, right? My mom made me stay up and do the homework. And I, out of like pride, like my competitiveness, I stayed up with her and I was trying to show her that I was trying to prove to her that I can't do that. And I was trying to like do that by seeing like, okay, let's see who can stay up longer, right? So it was like this battle between me and my mom. And at the end, when I realized that I'm gonna lose and that I'm gonna it was like 3 a.m. and she's not gonna let me go to sleep, what ended up happening is I just put my head down and I just did it. And in 30 minutes, I was able to finish it. Now, this happened when I was 11 years old. Okay, so when I was 11 years old, just think about that. Do you think the 11-year-old me, at that moment understands that, oh wow, what a great life lesson my Tom, oh yeah, like, something like maybe if you don't believe you can do it, you're already lost, or if where there's a will there's a way, or something like that, right? Like, you think the 11-year-old son sat there like thinking that, oh wow, great lesson, my mom taught me a great lesson? No, I'm a dumbass. I didn't know that at 11 years old. I didn't know that was a lesson I learned. The only thing that happened to me when I was 11 years old was, oh shit, I thought it was going to be impossible, this homework. But when I actually like focused and I knew I had to get it done. And when I did it, I actually was able to do it, right? Wow. And then a few years later, when I was in school, the same thing happened with the project. I was working on this project. I thought I couldn't do it, but the last minute, the night before, I just put my head down and I finished it, right? Same thing with coding, like a project working for a client. Like, this happened over and over and over and over in my life, okay? And now, looking back to 11-year-old son, now I can be like, oh, of course, that was the lesson that I learned. Like, looking at all the repetitive patterns of that, it's obvious that that's the lesson that I learned. But the 11-year-old me would have never realized that. Do you understand what I mean? So this is what I mean by what happens with these stories, good morning, is you learn the lesson in your body, but you haven't processed it in your head yet. So what we're doing by reflecting, going back and storytelling and practicing storytelling is we're going back and we're processing lessons that we've already learned in our body. Something like that. Yeah. I ask you, why don't you say to yourself, to the world, and to everyone who follows you about love of God's love? Storytelling for moms. How to get your kids to listen through story. That's so great. Like you should somebody should have a somebody should make an Instagram account or YouTube channel or something like that where you teach parenting through storytelling, right? Like storytelling is such a powerful tool that you can literally apply in every industry. Like imagine you have a YouTube channel where you're a mom and you're teaching storytelling to other moms, other parents on how you can use storytelling to get your kids to clean your room, how to get your kids to do your homework. Like use storytelling to do it. Like you can do that, right? Another thing is, hey Olivia, hey Yvette. Another thing you can do is like, I talked to a lawyer like a couple years ago who DM'd me and said, hey son, like I'm a lawyer and I have to tell you, like all of the storytelling things that applies also in the courtroom, because when you're a trial lawyer and you're speaking to the jury, like your job is to tell a story to the jury that the jury is gonna believe, right? So yeah, if you're a lawyer, you can teach storytelling in a YouTube channel or whatever again to other lawyers how you can use storytelling in a court. Like storytelling literally applies. Storytelling applies in sales. It applies in the courtroom. It applies in dating situation. It applies in parenting. Here's the thing, right? Like yeah, storytelling is one of those things that whatever you do, it makes you better at that thing. So yeah, that's why you can literally apply storytelling to anything. Okay, let's continue. Okay, Nick Rao. Can you talk about the psychology behind why telling a good story is important to increase connection? What drives this movement to tell great stories? It's like right now, life can only, yeah, Rob, exactly. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Yeah. Exactly. You know what? That's probably actually my entire life philosophy. I'm not gonna guess what the future is gonna be. I'm just gonna let the universe pave the way and bring me along for the ride. I'm just going along for the ride. What's gonna happen? I have no fucking clue. Okay? What I'm doing though, so I let live, right? So I let life happen, and then I go back in my history and I reflect about what happened. And that's what I'm doing. But I'm not trying to expect something from the future. I'm not trying to like guess the future. And I'm not trying to change the past. And I'm not trying to dwell on the past. When I do this, all I'm doing is I'm reflecting and I'm seeing the truth. I'm learning the truth about me and how I fit in this world or something like that, right? Okay. So the psychology behind why telling a good story. Here's the thing. When you hear a cliche, like money doesn't buy happiness, right? Or something like, if you really love something, let it go, right? Some shit like some cliche or even the one I tell. Okay, here's a good example, right? Like, if you don't believe you can achieve it, like you're already doomed from the start or something like that. Something like that. If you don't believe in it, that it's already over. Something like that, right? So I can say that to you. I can say that to you. I can say that to all of you. And you guys are sitting there like, oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know. It's like it goes out in one ear or the other. And a lot of times that's what happens when something becomes a cliche. When something becomes popular and commercialized, it becomes misunderstood, right? Like Bitcoin. Like if you look at Bitcoin or blockchain technology, the beauty of that technology is the decentralized currency, right? But the thing is, when it becomes popular and people see that there's money making opportunities and shit like that, it attracts all the predatory behaviors and it attracts everybody to fucking take advantage of it. and then turn it into something it's not. And that's also what's happening with the word authenticity and storytelling, right? Storytelling. Most people that are out there fucking teaching storytelling, yeah, I'm a storytelling teacher. I'm a storyteller. Or like, I'm like, oh, you know how many fucking brand experts or fucking agencies I went into where they're like, oh yeah, we're all about storytelling. I'm a storytelling expert. Oh, tell me a fucking story, goddammit. Like, you know how many times I fucking take a storytelling class and these people have no fucking clue anything about storytelling? And that's because people don't even know what the fuck storytelling is. And when people talk about authenticity, oh, you gotta just be yourself. Don't care about what anyone thinks. Just, do what you want to do, right? Like, that's what happens when something becomes popularized, something becomes commercialized. Like authenticity. Oh, authenticity. I'm all about authenticity. Oh, you should be authentic. You should be yourself. You shouldn't care about what other people think, is what everybody fucking says, right? That like as if like, and that's become the cliche. And when you say that now, everybody's like, oh yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Authenticity is so important in storytelling. Yeah, I know. But do you really? Because if you really did, you wouldn't going around. So many people are like talking about authenticity, going around saying shit like, oh, I don't mean to offend you, but something like that, or but. So what they're doing is something like they're using the excuse of authenticity to become an asshole, right? So, or just like, oh, I'm just being honest. Like, no, you're just being an asshole. That's what you're being. Like, so what's happening is these people don't fucking know what authenticity really means. They think that authenticity means being an asshole and not giving a fuck about what anyone thinks, right? And that's what happens oftentimes when something becomes popularized. It loses its meaning and people start misinterpreting it, and they don't really, because it's so mainstream and it's been so watered down, people don't really know. People don't really get it. They think they know, but they don't. Like yoga. A lot of people are like that with yoga. A lot of people think like, yoga, like the physical movement of yoga is such a tiny part of yoga, right? Like there's this whole part of yoga, and a small part of that is the asana, right? The actual physical yoga. But here in the Western world, like, we popularized yoga and we made yoga so fucking commercialized that we think that yoga is getting a Lululemon fucking outfit on, getting in your fucking Starbucks and your fucking Porsche Cayenne and going to your local studio and doing a fucking downward dog. We think that's yoga. And that's what happens when something becomes popularized and commercialized, okay? And that is exactly what happened with storytelling. Storytelling has become so popularized and commercialized that it's become this fucking watered down garbage of a cliche word that everyone fucking uses. Storytelling. Oh, you want to grow Instagram? Tell great stories. TED Talk, great stories, great. Like, that's what it's become. So let me tell you why fucking story works. Okay? Because when you say a cliche like, oh, where there's a will, there's a way. If you don't believe it, you'll never achieve it. If I say that shit, that's a cliche that nobody understands. That it's one of those cliche people will repeat. Oh, of course. Oh, money doesn't make you happy. It's one of those cliche people repeat, but they don't know what that actually means. Just like they don't know what yoga really is. Just like they don't know what authenticity really means. They don't know what this really means. So what ends up happening? They do it the wrong way. And then they go out and they spread the message. Now they go out and start fucking telling other people to be like, oh yeah, where there's a way, that they start fucking regurgitating these fucking cliches they heard from Gary Vee and Tony Robbins and everything, right? But what's happening is, now imagine this. Instead of me saying, where there's a will, there's a way. If you don't believe it, you won't achieve it. Imagine I do this. Oh, when I was 11 years old, when I first came to the US, I didn't speak English at all. So, and every night my mom would check my homework. And there was this English homework where I had to write a paper, and I was thinking, there's no fucking way I can do this. There's no way. So I didn't do it. And my mom asked me at like 10 o'clock at night, and she said, no, you're not going to sleep until this is done. So she made me stay up. And at that time, I was like, oh yeah? Oh yeah, mom? I'll show you. Let's see who can last longer. And I actually was determined to stay up all night until she falls asleep, just to prove to her that I couldn't do it. Okay? But, then 11 o'clock, midnight came, 1 o'clock, 2 a.m., and I'm sitting there dozing off, like, I'm looking over, and my mom is like a rock, right? My mom is not even flinching. She's like, She's reading her book. She's like, she has no problem. She looks like she can fucking stay up for days. And I'm like, at 3 o'clock, I'm like falling asleep. And I can see in her eyes that she's not going to sleep. So once I realized that I'm not getting out of this, I fucking put my head down, I opened my dictionary, I looked up word by word, and I finished the homework in 30 minutes flat. So I could have finished it 5 hours ago, but for 5 hours, I sat there trying to piss off my mom, trying to fucking playing the stare contest with my mom for 5 hours because I didn't want to focus the 30 minutes to finish it. And that's when I learned that if you don't believe you can do something, you're never going to achieve it. Do you understand what I mean? And something like that happened again in my life when my paper was due, when my project was due, and I couldn't figure out this bug. It happened over and over and over again in my life. So when I tell you a story of how that lesson, so now if I tell you a lesson, it's just like, it's that cliche thing you're going to misunderstand. But if I tell you a lesson followed by a story, it shows you how the lesson manifests in real life. What it does is it gives you a demonstration of what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to act out this lesson, right? So, and that's exactly why I guarantee you every lesson that you've ever learned in your life, like life lesson, you learned it through a story. Because the stories shows you how you're supposed to act out that lesson, how you're supposed to live it out, like what, or it shows you how it manifests in your own life, so that you can compare their story to my story. Like, you ever do this? Like, you ever hear somebody tell a story and be like, oh shit, like similar thing like that happened to me. Oh, something like that happened to me too, right? So what's happening there is some sort of a connection is being made. This event happened to this person, and as a result of that, they learned this lesson or whatever the emotions they felt. And I had a similar experience. And immediately when you tell me that story, you don't have to give me all the details. Just by telling me that story, oh, now I know what you mean. Okay. Now I know what you mean by if you don't believe it, you won't achieve it. Oh, now I know what you mean by being authentic. Oh, now I know what you mean, right? But that happens because that person told the story. All right, let's move on. Okay. Shawshank to Freedom. Also, any advice on posting frequency? Just post as many as possible. Some weeks 3 posts per week, sometimes 7, or just pick a frequency that you can be consistent with and stick to that rhythm. You know what? I don't know the answer to that question, but what I heard over and over and over again is that consistency matters more than frequency. So it's better to post once a day every day than like 3 times one day and then none in another day, and then something like that. So I think consistency matters more than frequency is what I'm hearing. Okay. Arch AS. The most important part in storytelling is probably build up towards the conflicts. So what if there isn't a conflict? Let me know if you need an example. Yeah, I need an example. Because if there is no conflict, that means there is no story, right? The reason why there's a story, do you know what the definition of a story is? Like, this is a story. Okay, I'm gonna break it down to you. Not in some fucking fairy tale Disney storytelling or some fucking screenwriting storytelling or some fucking story brand bullshit commercialized fucking storytelling framework. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about real storytelling. When it comes to real storytelling, like the kind of storytelling people used to do thousands of years ago, okay? When it comes to real storytelling, the reason why we remember certain stories in our life is because here's our life, right? You live your life, and in your life, we need to have certain beliefs. We need to have a expectation of the world, how the world works, for us to live in it, right? Because if we don't have a certain expectation, for example, if I don't believe that my family is gonna take care of me, and that's an unknown, it's an uncertainty, I can't function in life. I have to believe that if I pick this up, if I drink it, it's gonna be cold, that I'm gonna touch it and it's not gonna burn. I need to believe, I have to have those beliefs. So you live life according to your expectation. So you have a belief in your head. Oh, this is how the world is. And you live life according to that, your beliefs, okay? Until something unexpected happens. I'll give you a good example. Maybe I think that, in order for me to get a girl to like me, I need to be super nice to her. I need to buy her flowers. I need to treat her like a queen. I need to do everything for her, right? And that's my belief. That's what I believe the world is, right? And then I keep doing that, and I fail. And I do that again, and I fail again. And I do that again, I fail again. And when I believe certain thing about the world, and then I come in clash with that world, and then it turned out to be false, that's the conflict. I thought if I buy her flowers, she'll like me. I thought if I'm nice to her, she'll like me. But the truth is, no, if I do that, she actually doesn't like that, because a lot of people don't like. It's the same reason why they don't want people like Diamond, is because they want to get what they can't. If something is too easy to get, they don't want it, right? So the same thing is happening. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I had one set of belief about the world, living life, until one day, boom, reality hit. And the truth was this, right? So what happened? This event, this conflict happened. Boom, the clash happened. And the clash is the moment when I went to buy flour for the girl and then I got rejected. Or she made fun of me or something like that. That's the clash. And those are the tiny little traumas in your life. And you have shitload of hundreds of these tiny little traumas in your life. And every time that trauma happens in your life, you learn the lesson. You learn something. You learn something. You learn something. And your brain is keeping score. Your body is keeping score of all these stories, all these memories that happen in your life. And you live life based on the belief of these traumas that happen to you in your life. And that's what makes you who you are. Those little tiny little trauma stories is what makes you who you are. Now, if there is no conflict, if there was no conflict there, that trauma would not happen. The only reason why you even remember it and why it's even a traumatic event is because there was a conflict, meaning you believed one thing and then you were like, I believe that my job is safe. I believe I'm going to be fine, until COVID happened and I got fired. And then I was forced to I was forced to start my business. I was forced to whatever, right? Like, that's the conflict. Do you know what I mean? And it's because those tiny little conflicts is why you look at the world the way you look at the world. I'm trying to come up with another example. Whew. Yeah, so if there is, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, if there is no conflict, there is no story. And conflict can be small, right? Like me. So here, there's that perfect story. So me at that night and my mom's, like battling with my mom. My conflict is, no, I can never do this. And then I was hit with the reality where my mom forced me to do it. And then I realized that I actually can do it, right? You know, when I was starting my business, I always thought that business was like, you know, you never show your hand, right? It's like a poker game. You never show your hand. You never tell anybody what you're really thinking, right? You have to, you know, you have to like you have to lie. That's what I thought you have to do in business. And that's my expectation until boom, one day the truth hit me, right? What happened was I was lying. I was telling clients like, "Oh yeah, your project is on time. Oh yeah, this happened." Like I was giving excuses when everything was a mess. Until the moment where I was forced to tell the truth because I missed the deadline 3 times. And what happened was in that conflict, what I realized is that actually telling the truth helps me more in business than trying to lie and hide those information. That's what I learned, right? But if through that conflict, I learned that. So if there is no conflict, there is no story, guys. That's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say about that. Okay, Rob. How can I be a great listener and discover my clients' real underlying needs, questions, as well as share my expert opinion? That may be contrary to what they want, but really is what they need. I think that's kind of like it's exactly what I do in sales. So first, let's talk about listening skills. I think when you listen, right? For me, when I listen to somebody tell me a story, or just when I listen to somebody do anything, I try to put 100% of my focus into the listening. So meaning, I even try to picture, like, if somebody's telling me a story about what happened at work, and what happened with their boss or something like that, then I try to picture that person in the room with their boss, and I really try to put myself in that person's shoe. And I try to listen to everything like that. And I notice that when I do that, I ask better questions. Because a lot of people, when they tell you something, when they're talking to you, they tell, let's say this is what they're trying to tell you, but they leave out certain things. Because in their mind, they assume that you know it or something like that. So they leave out certain details, right? But when you're really listening, you're actively listening, you catch those. And you're like, oh, wait, what happened there? Oh, why did you do? And you catch those things. And you get a better understanding of what they're really thinking. So when somebody is usually talking to you or telling you a story, what you have to do is you have to focus on what they're not telling you. Like, don't focus on what they're telling you, but focus on what they're leaving out. Because when somebody's telling you something, almost always, their ego is doing the talking. So they're telling you what they want you to hear. And they're kind of tiptoeing around, they're like tiptoeing around the thing that they don't want to talk about, right? So then you need to dig into that thing. And usually what happens is when you have a conversation like that, you have to learn how to read between the lines and think, what are they really saying? Okay, I heard these words. They use these words, but deep inside, what are they really thinking? What is their real worry? What is their real, okay? And let me give you an example. So a lot of clients come to me and they want me to do certain type of design. So they're like, son, hey, can you do a design like that? And I'm like, and I go back and I do a different kind of design. Well, I'll do the design that they want, but I also do a different kind of design. And I'll explain why. I'll explain to him because based on data, based on our experience and I'll show him the data, like this is going to convert much better. You're actually going to make more money by using this design than this design. So I even prove it to him, right? But at the end of the day, he still wants to go with this design, the one that's not going to perform, right? And for me, I have to read in between the lines to understand what his real motive is. Because obviously, I made the judgment for him saying, of course you want this because this is going to make you more money. But the truth is this guy doesn't care about making more money. He cares more about doing this design just so that he can go to his friends and say, hey, look at my website. It's just like we did it like that website. Like just to show off to his friends. That's his real agenda. That's his real goal. If that is the case, I'm not going to be able to sell him like this. Do you understand what I mean? Like, and a lot of times you'll realize that. You'll realize that what you're trying to do with the client is you're trying to sell them logic. You're trying to explain them trying to use logic. But they don't fucking see logic. They don't hear logic. They don't understand that shit. What you need to do is you need to cater to their emotions. What is it they really want? Once I realize what they really want, then yeah, you can come to some sort of a compromise, right? Like once I realize that, oh, you don't really care about making money, or you don't really care about conversion or anything like that. You just want something fancy so that your friend, oh, that's the real goal? All right, let's make that happen. This is what we're going to do. You know what I mean? And that's why it's so important to understand, read between the lines and know what they're really thinking. And most people won't tell you what they're really thinking. Most people have like an armor up. They have a guard up. So one of the first things I have to do when I go into a meeting with a client. So when I talk to a client, most people are embarrassed to tell me about their current website because they know that their current website is a mess. Their current website is like a hot mess. It's like technically everything is broken. They know that. So they don't want to tell me about that, right? So what I have to do is I have to first assure them, and I have to be vulnerable first. Oh, our website has this bug. Oh, and and I talk about, oh, every website is like that. Every website in the world has bugs, even Apple. And I need to let the guard down, and I need to make them feel safe to tell me all this embarrassing shit that they don't want to tell me. So I have to let my guard down, and I have to embarrass myself first so that they feel safe to tell me all of that shit. And once they're able to tell me all of that shit, and once we are on the same page, once you don't feel like judged, shamed by me, that you feel comfortable enough to tell me everything, including the fact that you just want to make a website to show off to your friends or something like that, now we can get somewhere. Now we can work towards a goal, right? But that is the conversation that's never not happening. When everyone's having a conversation, it's always passive aggressive. You're always hiding some shit. You have your second agenda. And it's almost like you're having a conversation with somebody. Like two people are here having a conversation with each other, but there's a huge wall in between. And they're not getting through to each other, right? It's because nobody wants to be the first one to be vulnerable, right? Everybody wants to be the one that's strong. I want to be the one that, I don't want to give up my hand, right? I can't show them what my hand is, right? So that's what happens. Okay, let's move on. Ali Flowers. Is there any real strategy for getting more reach? And if there's one, which one is it? Okay, so I mean, let me tell you to you like this, right, Ali? Getting a reel to go viral is very, 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 very simple. Okay, somebody has to, and I'm gonna do it. Okay, I'm gonna draw a picture for you of what this looks like. Okay, and so you put yourself in the audience point of view, right? You're somebody who's going through a phone, and in the morning you're just swiping through 20 videos, 30, 21, 22, 30 videos. Boom, swipe, swipe, swipe. You're looking at somebody dancing. Maybe you're looking at somebody doing some pointing. You're looking at some beautiful scenery, some drone shots, and you're like, quick. Like you're in that state of mind, right? You're not even focused right now. You're just like, you're brainless. You're just boom, 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 doing that, okay? Now keep that in mind. Now, what is the video that's going to stop you and make you watch it? And completely be honest with yourself. If you were randomly, you just scroll through 30 videos quickly, and you landed on your own video as a stranger, would you stop to watch that video or not? Probably the answer is no. So first things first, you need to get this through your head. Nobody gives a shit about your video as much as you. So even though you might think this is the best fucking video, this is fucking amazing, nobody else in the world is thinking that way. Everyone else in the world is, you know what they're doing? They're doing this. Skip. That's what they're doing. Okay? So first, know that. Number two, the only thing that you have to do is in the first 2 seconds, make sure you hook them. Oh, fuck, I want to watch this. And then, if it's a 30-second video, make sure throughout the entire 30 seconds that they're going to hold on. And then at the end of the video, make sure there's a payoff. Make sure there's a punchline. Okay? All three of these things has to happen for it to go viral. If one of these things is missing, it's not going to go viral. Here's why. First of all, the hook makes sense. Boom, boom, boom. So a lot of people, what I see now do is this. They fucking have these amazing hooks, right? They're like, oh, secret to getting million followers in 5 days. Boom. Oh, this one trick helped me get 1 million views. Some shit, some crazy fucking hook like that, right? So they make you want to stop. But what happens when they stop and they watch the rest of the 45 seconds? They don't deliver on the promise. Meaning, oh, this is how you can get 1 million followers in 1 day. But then you watch the video and they're like, oh, use hashtag, use trending audio. So they're telling the same cliche shit. So they didn't actually deliver on the promise. You promised me you're going to show me how to get 1 million followers in 1 day, but your content, your video didn't deliver on that promise. So what ends up happening at the, it doesn't fucking matter you had a great hook because you didn't deliver on the promise. Now, I'm not going to follow you. I'm not going to share it. I fucking actually hate you now because you tricked me and you wasted 45 seconds of my time to watch your useless fucking video because you lied on the hook. So here's what needs to happen. You need to have an amazing hook, right? But your video actually needs to deliver on that promise. That's the number 2 part. That you actually deliver on the promise. So of course, you can promise crazy shit to get people to hook you and watch you. But it's a lot harder to deliver on that promise now, right? So you find your balance. Make sure your hook is good enough, but it's not crazy. So you can deliver on it. And once you deliver on it, at the end, you need a punchline. You need some sort of a surprise ending. You need a shock value. You need a payoff, right? Without that payoff, what's going to happen is you ever hear a joke, somebody tells you a joke, and at the end there's no punchline, and you're just sitting there going like, what? That was it? Was that it? I don't get it. What was the punchline? Like, you ever feel like that? That's how it feels if there's no punchline at the end of the video. So what a lot of people are doing is they're watching, oh, hook, and then at the end they're feeling like, okay, is that it? So if they feel like that, you think they're gonna share it, you think they're gonna like it, you think they're gonna comment, you think they're gonna save it, they're not gonna do shit. And that's why it's not gonna go viral. So you need all, if a video wants to go, if you want a video to go viral, you need all 3. And if I make 100 videos, if I post out 100 videos, maybe one video might have all 3. That's why it's so fucking hard. That's why I keep saying, make 100 videos, fucking post videos every fucking day. Because that's the only way. The odds of hitting all 3 is so hard. It's like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000. It's so hard that you have to keep making video even to have that odd. And all 3 things, right? Hook, so they'll stop scrolling. The delivering on the hook, right? And then payoff, punchline. All 3 things needs to be there for it to go viral. Okay. The Mulholland. How to add suspicious. Oh, what happened? Are you guys there? Can you see me? Hello? Okay, I think we're back. Okay, so I think what you mean is, I don't know if you mean how to add like suspicion, like meaning like mysteriousness, or suspension in our stories. But here's the thing, right? There's a lot of things you can do. Like, for example, if I say up front, for example, if I say something like this is how okay. Imagine I start the video like this. This is how I miss deadlines. This is how I missed my deadline twice, and a client ended up giving me a raise. Okay? Imagine that was the hook. I missed my deadline twice, and that client gave me a raise instead of firing me. Okay. And then now I'm going to go tell that story. But what's happening is because I gave that hook, the whole time they're wondering like, how? I want to know. What? You missed your deadline and he give you a raise? What? I want to know. And the whole time I'm telling that story, they're looking forward to the moment, the answer. And that's how you build suspense. You have to, when you're telling a story, from the audience point of view, what's happening is, okay, where's this going? Okay, what's going to happen next? Oh, that's interesting. What's going to happen next? Oh, what's happening? You constantly have to have that constant mystery, right? Like you need to constantly build mystery like that. So the way to do that is through raising a question and answering it, right? For example, let's say I start the video, and in the video I'm it looks like this. I'm like this. Then immediately it's gonna raise a question. People are gonna be like, "Oh, why is he turned around? Why is he backwards?" Like that's the question that like now I'm curious. Why is he backwards? So I need to know. So until that question is answered, I'm gonna stick around. But then as soon as I say, "Oh, the reason why I was turned around is because they were blah 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 blah," then now they're gonna leave because now they got the answer. So as soon as I answer, I need to I have to raise another question. So building suspicion is all about raising a question that they want to know, and then you answer it, and then you raise it again, and then you answer, and you raise it again, and you constantly need to raise question answer in order to keep that suspense going. I hope that helped. Okay, let's move on. I'm gonna do like a, what do you call that? Like a quick fire or whatever. Like I'm gonna try to answer this as fast as I can. Rash designer. How I can convince my audience of importance of storytelling. Maybe through telling them a story. See, here's the thing, right? For me, it's really hard for me to convince anybody of anything unless, rapid fire. Unless I'm convinced of that too, right? First, I have to be convinced of that. And then I can convince other people, right? But for me to be convinced of that, I actually have to know it inside and out. I actually need to know about it to be convinced of it. And I would have to guess this, right? If you're having a hard time convincing other people why storytelling is important, that means you are not really convinced yourself. And that's okay. I'm not judging you. I'm not shaming you, right? It's what I said before. It's what happens when something becomes commercialized, something becomes Disneyfied, something becomes, like popularized, like storytelling. Now that storytelling is the new trendy buzzword. Every entrepreneur, every social media creator, everyone is talking about storytelling. Storytelling is the new hot buzzword right now. Okay? The storytelling is the new authenticity. Okay? Like maybe in the last 5 years, authenticity was the new buzzword. Now storytelling is the new buzzword. Okay? So when something becomes a new buzzword like that, then it's gonna lose its essence. So it's gonna create a lot of fucking people out there, like a lot of people who don't even fucking understand what storytelling is. They don't even know how to do storytelling themselves. They're not even convinced yet that storytelling is helping them. But they go out and trying to convince other people that storytelling is gonna help them. How the fuck are you gonna convince other people that storytelling is gonna help them if you yourself is not convinced that storytelling is gonna help you? Right? And that's what I see right now. I see shitload of people out there who talks about storytelling, but when I go look at their own story, when I go look at their own fucking content, when I see them telling their story, they don't fucking know how to tell a story. Their own fucking story is not convincing. So how the fuck are you gonna convince me? It's the same reason why a fucking 22-year-old fucking kid comes and tells me that, oh, money's not gonna help you, money's not gonna make you happy. Oh, it's just hedonic treadmill. You're just gonna keep chasing money. Like, if a fucking 25-year-old is gonna come tell me that, like, oh, like money's not gonna make you happy, you're just gonna keep chasing it, I'm gonna be like, shut the fuck up, kid. Don't fucking tell me that chasing money is not gonna make me happy when you don't even fucking believe it, because you're chasing money right now. So you don't fucking believe it yourself. Why the fuck are you going out and preaching about it? Oh, money's not gonna make you happy. Money's not gonna make you happy. And then you come to your own shit and you're like, oh, let's make some money. Like, nobody fucking believes you, okay? Because you don't fucking believe you don't fucking believe the own garbage you're selling. And that's the reason why nobody fucking believes you. The reason why when I talk to my clients, when I talk to my audience about storytelling, they fucking believe me. They believe that storytelling works. Why? Because I believe it. I believe it and I can demonstrate it. I can show them an example of how it works. So that's why. So if you can't convince somebody, I'm just telling you this. If you cannot convince somebody to do something, that means you're not convinced yourself. I guarantee you. Oh, fuck. Hit the wrong button. Okay. Ava Light. How do I deal with the feeling of vulnerability when sharing story that taught me life lesson? Great question. Here's what I want to say. I love you too, Jaishri. Hey, Olivia. Okay. I don't think you can fully be comfortable with being vulnerable, right? Because the thing is, a lot of people say, oh, I want to be vulnerable, but I'm scared to say this. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's what makes it vulnerable. If it wasn't scary, it wouldn't be vulnerable. Do you get it? The fact that it's vulnerable is because there's a risk. If I say this, oh, I might get backlash. Oh, I might get fired. Oh, this person might break up with me, right? So I'm taking a risk when I say something, okay? When I say this word, 50% chance that they're gonna hate me, 50% chance they're gonna love me. So I'm taking a risk, right? So when I take a risk, that's vulnerable. And that is the definition of vulnerable. So if you're trying to be vulnerable and you feel that and you can't do it, then that in itself means that you're not being vulnerable because you shied away from being vulnerable, right? Because it scared you. You're being a coward. So that's why being vulnerable actually takes a lot of courage, right? So, yeah. So I'll leave it at that because we're like almost at the end. But I talk about this a lot in my Sunday service and Monday masterclass. Okay, Social Kasim. What will you say about how to think and grow rich? I never read that book. But here's what I say. What is it? What's that guy's name? Napoleon Hill or something like that, I think. Here's what I'll say about Napoleon Hill. You know, Napoleon Hill is the original charlatan. He's the original fake guru. That guy, like, I don't fucking understand why people fucking read Napoleon Hill's books and how to think and grow rich and all of that. I don't understand that shit. Because this guy died broke. Like, Napoleon Hill died broke. Everything he said about I think like like him working with the Carnegies or Rockefeller or whatever, whatever it is it was all a lie. Like, Carnegie didn't even fucking know him. Like, he was the original fake guru, guys. Like, he did it 100 years ago. He went out and make all these fucking fake ads and fake copywriting. Like, he's the one who fucking started all of this shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, he started this shit 100 years ago. And now Russell Brunson is taking the baton and carrying it on. That's what's happening. Do you know what I mean? Anyway. Yeah, I mean that not a lot of people know about the Napoleon Hill story, but I mean anybody that like it's easy to the data is easy to find. But anyway. Okay. Let's move on. Yeah, I mean, as you guys can see, I don't consider myself a guru or teacher or mentor or anything like that, right? All the shit I'm telling you guys, all the shit that I'm teaching here, everything that I say on Sunday service, those are all shit that I'm trying to do myself. I don't like all this advice that I'm giving you, all the answers that I'm giving. You think I'm doing that? You think I'm perfect? You think I'm fucking doing all of that? That's why. No. Like, I need to be working on them all the time too. So I'm on the same boat with you guys. All these things that I'm saying, I'm not saying them like, oh, I'm doing them and you're not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is what we all should be doing, including me, because I suck at it too. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's why I don't really like the whole guru culture, this whole fucking cult-like following. It creates this fucking false sense of authority, and like I hate that shit. It's the shit. It's what creates these fucking predatory behaviors. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, just Missy being Missy. Best example of storytelling for someone in skincare, beauty, social selling. Stories sell makeup. Yeah, see, that's like an area that I don't know a lot about. So it's kind of hard to make up. Let's see. I don't know. I would imagine that those are all most of those commercial products are all mostly going to be customer stories, right? So I would keep telling customer stories. That's how I would do it. Like, it's hard for me to give. Here's the thing. Here's what I realized. When I started my own agency, and yeah, every story just being Missy, every story it's going to be your own story, your hero's journey, how you learned, how you went from the old you to new you, or the same transformation story of your customers, like how they went from here to here, right? But every industry has nuances to it. So here's what I'll say. For me, when I tell a story or when I work with a client, the first thing I do is I immerse myself in their work. So when I started working with Baptist Yoga, I went to their 1 week long yoga bootcamp. I joined the Baptist studio. I went all in, right? When I started working with AJW, which is a manufacturing company, I went to their factory. I spent a week there, and I learned everything about manufacturing. I learned, like, any client that I work with, I immerse myself in their work and try to really see from their point of view as well as their customer's point of view. And when you do that, like, I feel like I need to really, really, really understand it. Like for example, one of the things that I said that really resonated with people about yoga is that I say the best time to reflect and do storytelling and be to let your vulnerable story come out is after a yoga class. Because after a 90-minute hot yoga class where you're just feeling miserable, you can't even think because your body is so exhausted. You're not even thinking. Your brain is turned off and you're just 100% in your body. And when you're last minute at the end of that 90 minutes, when you're lying there in shavasana and just doing nothing, is when the reason why you start crying and all of this shit starts coming out is because your body is so exhausted that it's lost the ability to bullshit yourself. Like, because your ego is keep trying to lie to you and trying to say, oh, this is what you want, this is what you want. But your body is like, oh, I'm so exhausted, and it just killed the ego. Now you can't even do that anymore. So all the truth comes out, right? So when I tell this story, a lot of people that has never done yoga before are like, oh, maybe I should do yoga. Or, oh, maybe I kind of want to try yoga, right? But do you think if I never done yoga that I could have told that story? Do you think I could have ever like told it in that way if I've never done yoga? That's what I mean. Like storytelling is a lot to do with you being immersed part of it. Do you know what I mean? Yes, of course. Of course you can use it. The drawing board. Yes, you can use it. What is storytelling? Wow. That's a very philosophical question. This is what I think storytelling is. I think that what makes humans, I guess, is our ability to communicate with each other, right? Like the fact that we can communicate with each other, get our thoughts from one brain to the next brain and connect and work together to create something, do something. That's kind of like, in my opinion, what humanity is, right? So, and how do we connect to each other? Like I said before, I can say some fucking cliche statement that's not going to get through, or I can tell a story. If I can tell a story about how we got chased by a lion, blah, 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 then they're going to understand it. They're going to be emotionally tied to it, and they're going to remember that, right? So that's why Robert, this is like the Bible. This book right here, story, is like the Bible. It's by Robert McKee. It's like the Bible for storytellers, right? And Robert McKee said, story is the currency of human relationships. So, in my opinion, what is storytelling? I think that's what it is. I think story is the currency of human relationships. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for staying. Thank you, everyone on YouTube. Thanks, Reggie. Tomorrow, please join me on YouTube. Tomorrow, the episode is going to be the bomb because I go through 2 real life stories and I really work with them to find the essence of the story. So make sure you tune in for tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. Thank you for staying. Thank you all. Cheers. Bye, everyone. Bye, Hamza. Bye, Just Being Missy. Bye, Andrea. Bye-bye.